Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started.
All right. Good morning, Be It listeners. Welcome back to, I don't have any idea what episode this is actually, but this is going to be a solo episode from yours truly, Brad. Really excited to sit down, share some thoughts with you and some things that I've been working on in my life. Today, I wanted to talk about fear. And this is very personal for me because as we have grown as a company, something that I have constantly battled is the fear of not being able to support our team. And what I mean by that is as we've grown, we have been in a position to actually hire a team, and it's been so exciting, and it's been really incredible and amazing to have help handling, all the things, because as you know, we have a lot of things going on. But in the back of my mind, there's been this, this like nagging fear underneath it all of are we going to be able to make sure we can pay everyone because they're depending on us, right? They're actually literally depending on the work that we're doing to be able to, some of them have families and, they've lives and bills and life. I mean, I remember what it was like being employed. If my employer didn't pay me, that would have been an incredibly bad day. And in fact, that happened to me a couple times throughout my journey in this entrepreneurial space, where I was actually working for an entrepreneur and the business didn't go well. And I ended up suffering from it because I never got paid. The first time I had a startup company crumble from underneath me, I was 26, I think, or 25 maybe. I think I started working for them when I was 24, and everything kind of really didn't succeed by the time I was 25, 26. It was all crumbling at that point. But my belief in the people, my belief in the product as a full-blown team member, because that's like my mentality. I prefer to be on a team rather than solo. I was so convinced that we were going to be able to make it work, pull it around, even though, especially at that age, I had no understanding of the money, of how any of it all worked at all. But I knew we were going to be fine, and we weren't. And literally to the point where I actually was the last person showing up in the office of 35 people. No one else was even coming, not even the CEO. And I showed up to work, and that was like that moment of like, I need to figure this out. Like, I can't believe that I'm here. What am I doing here? Like, there's nothing going on in this company. And it was a very real world, like, wake up moment of, I can't actually trust, I can't rely on this income stream, this job. This isn't going to be the thing that takes me to where I want to go, right? And that was really crushing. That was like, I felt betrayed. I genuinely felt betrayed. And then I was angry that the people who had hired me didn't sit me down and say, hey man, this is failing. You're going to need to figure out some other employment, figure out another way to make money. No, I had to come up with that on my own when I realized they had bailed. And that was crazy, and then I was in like full freak out mode. I didn't know what to do. I actually had to call my parents and be like, hey, I can't pay rent tomorrow because my paycheck, I don't think it's coming. And that was like really impactful for me. That caused a lot of frustration and anger, actually a lot of anger, because I put my trust in some people that didn't do well by me. I ended up having to actually threaten to take some of them to small claims court in order to get paid, just a couple $1,000s. It wasn't even like, it wasn't like they owed me 50 grand or 100 grand. No, it was just like a couple $1,000s. But I needed that money desperately in order to live, and it took me years to make the decision to go to small claims court. So, and that was a whole nother battle of that we won't go into here, because I had to really get over this idea that I was going to be hurting them or burning relationships, right? From all of my friends' perspectives, they had burnt the relationship with me. But for me, I was thinking, oh, well, this is still my network. This is still my people. Anyway, we won't go into that. But the next thing that I had to do was to scramble. I had to figure it out. Like immediately within one weekend, I had gotten 3 jobs. I had started working for a restaurant on the far side of Los Angeles. Also, I didn't have a vehicle, so I was literally taking the bus across town. I started working at a school where I was doing admin for the school, and the other, I got another restaurant job up in the valley. So I was working, these restaurants were 8 or 10 miles away from each other. The school was somewhere in the middle, and I lived way off to the side. So my morning, it really was crazy. I actually was, the only choice I had was to get up at like 6:30, which is against my nature, by the way. I'm not a morning person. I genuinely like to stay up late. I've always felt like my brain functions better at night. That's been since I was really, really young. So I had to get up really, really early. I had to roll out of bed, and I got into this very interesting routine where I would walk down I would walk about a mile down to the train station, and on the way I would stop and I would pick up my breakfast at this spot there, and then I would grab a coffee, and I would sit on the train, and I would take the train into Hollywood, California, and I would work at the school. And then after school, I would leave about 5 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I would take the bus across town, which was a 45-minute bus ride to go to a restaurant. And then I would leave that restaurant at like 11 o'clock at night, and I would take the bus back to my home. I'd get there around midnight, and then I would crash and get up at 6 and do it again the next day. And then on other nights, I would take the train north up into the valley to a different restaurant. I would walk 1.5 miles down the street to get to the restaurant because the train stop wasn't close enough. And then same story. I would usually try to catch a ride back to the train at the end of the shift, or I would walk, anyway, the point is, going through these experiences, it didn't actually, it's interesting looking back at it now. In the moment, what actually happened was I just told myself, I'll do it. I'll do whatever I need to do to get it done, to figure it out, right? But what I didn't see was that I was resilient. It built a ton of resentment and anger in me. And it was probably some of the darkest years of my life when I was really scrambling to just make ends meet and just literally make, $1,500 a month to pay my rent and eat. And, especially living in a big city like Los Angeles. And I got a phone call from some of the people I used to work with like a year and change later, and they were like, "Hey, Brad, how you doing, man? I hope you're amazing," right? And these guys like have plenty of money, and they, are very resourceful. I mean, they're also decades older than me at this time, but still, they called me up, and I was angry at them. I was so angry, and I challenged them. I said, why would I ever work for you again? You burned me, or, like really, really, you fucked me over, right? And it was like, I was so pissed. And they said, well, look, man, we really believe in you, and we really love, the efforts that you were doing at the company and what you were doing, and we think you'd be an amazing team player. Plus we can pay you. And so I was really hesitant. Again, I had this fear, and I was really hesitant, and I called my dad and I said, hey, these guys who I'm not sure that I trust them. They're offering me a job. And, he's like, well, is it better than what you're doing now? And I was like, probably, because I was fried. I had been, it was just more than a year of scrambling and trying to make ends meet. Right. And, I called another friend of mine who I really trusted, and he told me, look, you were able to go get those jobs in a weekend. you can go get jobs like that again if you need to. Maybe this could be a good opportunity for you. And by the way, if you don't trust these guys, then just get the most out of it that you possibly can. So what is a crazy, ridiculous number that you feel like they would probably turn you down if you told them this number, and tell them that's what you need, or you're not interested in taking the gig. And so at the time I was probably bringing in $20,000 to $25,000 a year. No, it was $25,000 a year or so. And, but life was a scramble. It was tough. And I was like, I'm going to ask them for $50,000. Right. And I genuinely believed that like this was an inordinate amount of money, that it was like, they were going to laugh in my face and they'd be like, dude, you're cool, but like, come on, man. Like, get real. Right. And I said, and not only that, I told them, hey, if I'm going to take this job, I have to work from home, because I was tired of commuting. Right. I was tired of being on a bus. I didn't even have a car. Right. And then the third thing I said is, my laptop is busted. I can't do this job unless you buy me a new laptop that I own. It's mine. Right. And I walked into this meeting, I sat down with these guys, and I told them how awesome I was and how all these amazing things I've been doing, and how I had basically put my life back together, which is a lie. I put my life back together after our past startup company had crumbled. Right. And they sat in this coffee shop with me and they listened to me and they said, dude, that's so crazy. We didn't know that you were, literally negotiating contracts and, managing a school and, bringing students in, whatever. It sounds like you're managing a team. And I said, well, sort of. And they said, great. Well, we want you to manage a team for the company that we're working for. And the first thing they told me was, listen, I know that there's not a lack of trust. There's a lack of trust here. So just so that you can feel assured, we're not writing your check. And I was like, oh, holy shit. That changes a lot of it for me, because I wasn't putting my trust back in these two guys. I was putting my trust in different people. Now, I didn't know them either, but that animosity that I had, I was able to let go of it, but I still stuck to my guns. And I said, I won't be able to do this job unless you pay me $50,000. I work from home and you buy me a laptop. And like, without hesitation, they were like, yeah, cool. We can make that happen. And I was like, oh my God, should I have asked for $60,000? Should I have asked for $70,000? Like 70, I couldn't even have imagined $70,000 at the time, but I was like, that was too easy. Why did they, what the hell? Why did they, why did that happen so fast? Right. And I was just, again, worried about this. And anyway, it ended up being an amazing experience to work with those two guys. This time around, it was a much different environment than our previous startup company. Even though those two were both decision makers in the past company, in this company, they were also decision makers. They ran the marketing department, and I ended up working for them, managing an entire team of bloggers and doing all the social media and SEO and stuff like that. And over the next year, I really had a chance to get to know them, and it was a really great experience. And ultimately, though, what happened was there were some other people in the company, namely the founder and the guy who had put in a lot of money, who, the guy was a shark, and he forced my friends out of the company 3 days before they actually were going to be vested, which means they were going to be qualified to receive, stock in the company, all this stuff. And he forced them out. And I don't know all the politics of it. I wasn't involved in those conversations, but, from the side view, it really looked shady. And it was pretty clear to me that my role in the company wasn't going to be long for this world, right? So I started to think, okay, cool. I need to start increasing. I never let go of my restaurant job, by the way, because again, fear. I didn't actually stop. I didn't cut that because I thought, if I need this again, I'm going to keep it. So I kept the really fancy restaurant I was working at nights, and I would work on Friday and Saturday nights and just bring in a couple $100. But it was a lifeline for me, and I knew if I needed to, I could go back into that restaurant and I could tell anyone in the restaurant, the staff, I'd been working there for a couple of years at this point, like, hey, I need more shifts. If y'all want to take a vacation, I'll cover anything. I don't care. Just in case, the rug got pulled out from me at this job. And I had a feeling, I just had this feeling like you know what, they're shifting, they're making a lot of changes in the company. They brought in a new woman to do intense ad analysis and ad spend. And she, used to spend $7 million a year or something, whatever. And, I was like, I could probably figure it out, but like, it wasn't really something I was into. And she sat me down. She's like, do you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, sure. And she's like, that wasn't very convincing. I was like, yeah, I don't actually really want to do this, but look, I'm good at this stuff and I'll figure it out. And she basically went back to the boss and said, he's the wrong guy for me. This is not going to work. And so they fired me. But, I kind of had a feeling, right? So I was prepared this time around, and I had that job. I had already started to, let people know, and it allowed me to kind of land on my feet. And I was also able to, because of this was like a legit company I was working for and all the things, I had been paying into unemployment. So I was able to immediately go apply for unemployment. And just like, it was way less of a hard landing than the first time through. But again, it still gave me fear. I was suddenly making, half as much money again. But this time I decided to make the most of it. I actually spent most of my time over the next year working on music, because that was what I had gone to Los Angeles to do anyway. So, but I share these stories because for me, it's fun to go down memory lane. For you, I want you to have an understanding of, this fear that now, fast forward, years later, I ended up working another job for a really long time. And then I left that company to start my own stuff, right? And I had this fear that I wasn't going to be able to pay my bills. At this point, it had been, 10 years since my first ventures, the first story I was telling you, and my life was a little more complicated. I was married at this point. I had bills to pay. I had, just life, right? And so I now, instead of me, needing $1,500 to $2,000 a month, I needed more than that, like by double, right? Because Los Angeles, it's expensive and all the things. And so I was like scrambling to get my fledgling companies off the ground to actually pay me, right? And I was so afraid to leave those companies that I'd started and throw my weight behind what Lesley had started, because I knew how difficult it was to put a financial burden on a new business. And I was worried that if I brought me, I looked at myself as an anchor to Lesley's company. I didn't look at myself as an asset to Lesley's company, right? Again, fear and mindset, right? So I said, well, yeah, okay, but that means her company's going to have to support me. And I know the financial strain that could put on everything. And that's not, I know it can crush a starting company, right? But I never was looking on the flip side of the coin. I was never looking and saying like I have been through so many different startup companies. I have worn so many roles. I've seen so many things. I've spent all this money from other people on all these other things, marketing, hiring, firing, whatever, events, like so much stuff, dev. I mean, it was just a lot of things. And I wasn't looking at all of that as an asset that I was bringing to Lesley's company. No, instead I was saying like, man, I'm just going to be an anchor that's going to drag her company down. Right. And this is, again, fear. Right. And when we took our first, when I participated in our first coaching program with somebody else, the very first thing that my one-on-one coach said to me was, dude, you're going to make the money. You are going to make that money, right? You have all these skills, all this understanding, all this wherewithal. You're going to make that money, right? And he was totally right. Not only did we make that money, we made more money than I needed just to pay my bills. We were paying Lesley's bills and my bills, right? And then slowly we decided to hire an assistant, and then we were able to pay her, and then we hired a video editor and we were able to pay her, right? And so it was very exciting to have this belief in myself of like, wow, me coming into this situation isn't an anchor, isn't a negative thing. Me coming rebellion can be a positive thing. I didn't even really know what I was doing in the sense of like, here's my plan, here's my strategy for growth. It wasn't like that. It was just me being willing to do whatever it took. Again, that, at work ethic that I had fallen into before applied here, because I felt like at any moment, like we were going to lose it all, right? And so I was working so hard, and it didn't matter. I wouldn't sleep. I would just work. And but the company started to grow, and we started to suddenly be able to do fun things. Like Lesley began traveling around the world and speaking at these events, and then we began hosting these retreats and everything. And it was really, really an incredible life that we had built for ourselves. Our team was really small still, and we got to travel and do what we loved. And then all of that came crashing down with COVID, right? So suddenly we're making more than enough money for Lesley and for me and our two teammates. And we may have had a third person at that point. I'm struggling to remember, but it was still a really small team. And the COVID suddenly made it, we had to switch. We had to change everything, right? And we had to... if we were going to grow, all of a sudden, all these cool ideas that we had been laying the foundation for, they needed to work. They needed to actually make money, right? And so in order for us to do that, we needed to hire a team. And so now here we are years later, and now we have a team. We have like a real team. It's like, like depending on the month, depends on who's specifically working for us, but we have a handful of full-time people, and we've got a whole lot of part-time people. Like we could have 20 different people working for us during the month, or more even, right? So, and we now I have this same creeping fear. It's never gone away, right? And so now it's like, are we going to make sure we're able to pay these people, what they deserve? And I value them, and I'm so grateful that they're working with us. And the experiences that I had, my worst nightmare would be that they experience what I had to experience, because it was terrible, right? And so the bigger question is like, how do you tackle this fear? How do you work on this? How do you get, like this? You may be, I don't know. There's these stories that we're telling ourselves, and if you are a small business owner running a studio and you have a team and you're worried about, class attendance, like I get it. I totally get that. An unexpected bill comes up, or like, something happens in the studio and you have to fix, I don't know, like construction stuff, or something like a water bursts, and like, I don't know, there's so many things that like could go wrong, right? And how do you live life looking on the positive side of things, looking at yourself as an asset instead of, allowing that fear to creep in and take over? And when I today, what I want to, when I feel that fear, because it still comes and goes, especially every month when we have to do payroll, right? Or we have to pay our credit card bill because we put all the company expenses on a credit card, right? I get these moments of this, it's like a dam burst of like, whoa, and you're like, oh my God. And then it's like, okay, right. I gotta remember, like, we have amazing things working for us. We have an amazing team. I have an amazing partner in Lesley. I have an amazing team who's supporting, we've got a beautiful vision. We have awesome clients. We get to work with amazing people, and we get to impact their life in such a positive way, whether that's with the online classes or with the fitness business coaching, or even with this podcast. And I have to remind myself, hey, things are going in the right direction, and good things are happening. And I know that if I open my heart to the fear, it will flood in. And if I allow that to happen, it can consume me and it will overrun me. And then I will then suddenly be in a fear-based mindset, and I will be making decisions, reactionary decisions, instead of making proactive decisions. I won't be, I will be, it just changes your mind so much when you embrace that. And the one of the practical ways, one of the beit action items that I can recommend you take, because I do this, is I write my fear down. I literally say, I'm afraid we're not going to be able to meet payroll. Okay. And I look at that and I go, well, then, maybe the next one is I'm afraid that, I'm missing something that is going to make our business fail. Right. Or I'm afraid that, whatever the fears are, generally it comes down to money. Right. And then when I see it in front of me, then I can write next to it, like, what do I actually do? What am I doing about the thing? Right. So if I'm afraid we're not going to make enough money to meet payroll, then I get to write, okay, to make sure that we are meeting payroll, we created a forecasting system where I can begin to look ahead and say, okay, this month is going to be good. This month is going to be good. This month seems to be low. Let's see where we can make money in this month, right? So we started to think proactively. And when I have this fear, when these waves come every once in a while, I look at that and I go, all right, well, what have I been doing to address that fear, and why is that fear unfounded? Have I been able to meet payroll so far? Yeah, and we met it every single month, and it's been amazing. That we've been able to support our team and that they've been able to help us, help you. But it is something that I want you to know that you're not alone with this, right? It is absolutely something that you like. Most people hide it. I hide it, right? And the reality is that it is there, and talking about it is actually refreshing. So if you have someone that you can talk to about these fears, that could be, like a counselor, or basically someone that you can talk to about this. It could be your best friend. It could be your partner, your spouse. It could be a family member, right? But by talking about it, that helps. By writing these things down, that really helps. And then the reality is you need to look at yourself, and look at the things that you've been able to come through, and where you've been to where you are now, and realize that you're still alive. Right? You are winning every single day, right? You're still breathing. Life is moving forward, and you're part of it, and it's going to be amazing. And that has really changed the way that we look at our company, changed the way that I live my life now, and with Lesley too. We do our best to focus on the things that we're doing that are fighting those fears, instead of focusing on the fear themselves. So I'm going to leave that with you. And if that is something that you struggle with, or if this resonates with you at all, tell us, tell me. Contact us through the Beit Pod Instagram account, and just fire off a DM and just say, hey, Brad, I too have fear about, money or management, or, buying a house, or whatever it might be, and just share that, because I believe in you, and I know that life is crazy, right? And lifes is what a saying that we've adopted, but there's still an incredible moments to be had in this life that we can dwell on and focus on, instead of that fear. So thank you so much for listening to us, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review, and follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of As the Crows Fly Media.
It's written, produced, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Crowell. Our associate producer is Amanda Fraterelli.
Kevin Perez at Disenyo handles all of our audio editing.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to our designer, Jaira Mandal, for creating all of our visuals, which you can't see because this is a podcast, and our digital producer, Jay Perdoso, for editing all the video each week so you can.
And to Angelina Herrico for transcribing each of our episodes so you can find them on our website. And finally, to Meredith Crowell for keeping us all on point and on time.